Hi everybody, today I am going to save you some time whenever you go outdoors, whether it be hiking, backpacking, camping, bushcrafting, whatever it is. Maybe you're going fishing for the afternoon, because it is that season, my friends, that we are finally hitting spring weather. And now is the time to get outdoors before the bugs really start to swarm you and the heat gets insane. Now, of course, I'm speaking from experience of here in Ohio, right? So your experience may vary depending on where you are, but we are finally getting out of the cold. This could be our fall spring, because here in Ohio, oftentimes we get 1 or 2 fall springs before we have real spring. Oftentimes, like, it's pretty cool even into June. So it's really weird depending on the year. But anyhow, today I am going to share with you a recipe called beef hamburg with Russian sauce. Now, I made this recipe before, and this recipe comes from an African-American man named Rufus Estes from 1911. Now, he was a cook in a hotel, and I think it's Chicago. And if I'm wrong, I'll put that in the little bar below. But I put this recipe and a bunch of other recipes of his in my collective cookbook, the Camp Crafters Cookbook, which, if you're not familiar, several years ago I published a Camp Crafters Cookbook, which has a bunch of historic traditional recipes that I like, especially when I'm outdoors. Now, Rufus doesn't include a lot of ingredients. He just, well, I mean ingredients, but measurements in regards to the recipes that he puts out. So a lot of it's kind of guesswork. Now, in this, he says get yourself a piece of beef buttock. So we're talking about a rump roast. I'm having some dinner with my family this evening, and when I went to the store, I didn't get rump roast. Instead, I got beef chuck, which is a shoulder. Very similar, however, beef chuck has more fat content. The rump roast does not have so much fat content. He wants it lean. In fact, in his recipe, it even says trim off the fat. So, you know, to make this correctly, you really want to have a lean piece of meat. And for that end, what I have here is the beef chuck, and then here I have some venison. Venison is the leanest meat that you can get here in the United States. So we're going to make both. Now, this isn't like a hamburger. In fact, it's more like a Scotch egg without the egg part, because you mix all these ingredients, you make them into balls, you roll them into breadcrumbs, and then you fry them up in the clarified butter. So take that for what it is. It's pretty basic. It's pretty simple. I suggest making this ahead of time and either cooling it in a cooler, or you want to eat it hot. So I wouldn't actually cook it until you're actually having lunch or having dinner or something like that, because when it's freshly hot, that's where all the flavors really come out. That's just my opinion. Okay, so like I said, you're going to need some lean beef, okay, or venison, whatever, lean meat. So we have our lean meat here. Now he says grab some shallots. I don't have shallots. I live in a village. I went to my little grocery store. They didn't have shallots either. So what I have is Vidalia onions. Now, Vidalia onions are a sweet onion, and that's the nice thing about shallots. Shallots are a mature, small onion that are a little bit sweeter and not as spicy. I was tempted to go out in my backyard because we have spring onions right now, and I was going to get it. But if you get spring onions, they're going to be a little bit bitter, and they're going to have more of an astringent taste. Shallots, on the other hand, have a little bit more of a garlic flavor. So if you want, you could kind of add a little bit of garlic if you really wanted to get that garlic flavor. I'm good with just having the Vidalia onions or the sweet onions. You're going to want some breadcrumbs. Now again, I didn't have any breadcrumbs, right? So I made my own. It's really simple. Take like 4 pieces of bread, throw them in the oven on a platter, you know, heat it up to about 350 degrees, about 5 to 10 minutes, you know, check on them, depending, you're wanting to draw out all the moisture, flip them over once again, put them in the oven, dry them out, check on them. What I did is I cut them up in little strips, and of course around the edges where it's the driest, they crumbled pretty easily, but closer to the center where there's still just a little bit of moisture, it became a little bit more difficult. So once I cut everything into strips, I put it in the oven again, and I dried it a little bit more. And then after that, I took my knife, chopped it through, and then took my rolling pin, and now we have our breadcrumbs. Now, you don't want to use flour, you want to use actual breadcrumbs for lots of different reasons, but the breadcrumbs is going to give it that nice crust. You're going to want a couple eggs, and you're going to want a stick of butter, okay? Now, the kind of consistency that you want is like a thick, almost like a Play-Doh. I mean, that's kind of what you want, but it's kind of hard to say that because you're dealing with meat. You're dealing with small chunks of meat. When you cut up your beef or whatever, you want it finely chopped, according to him. So you don't want them, you don't want it shaved, but you want about no more than really 1/4 of an inch thick cubes. Okay, that way you can mix it in together. For your Russian sauce, now I could not find a period recipe for Russian sauce, and Rufus didn't give us a recipe for his Russian sauce. And what's really cool is this recipe is from 1911. The fact that it's mentioned as Russian sauce, not Russian dressing, I found that pretty interesting. I reached out to my buddy Josh Wilson, who has a YouTube channel, and that's going to be in the bar below as well. He is a brand new YouTube creator, but he loves historic cooking. And he hooked me up with a couple recipes. And what I ended up doing, based off of the historic recipes that I found from him, another recipe that I found, and just our modern take on what a Russian sauce is, I kind of developed my own. Because it seems like everybody has their own take. One of the common things that was in the older recipes was like a fish, what do they call it? Fish broth. That sounds kind of gross, right? So instead, I'm opting for Worcestershire sauce. And if you didn't know, Worcestershire sauce actually has like a fish broth in it. So I'm going to put just a little bit of that. One common thing that's in every Russian sauce or Russian dressing recipe is horseradish. I'm a middle-aged man. When I was a kid growing up, I know this is kind of off the tracks here a little bit, but when I was a kid growing up, my dad liked horseradish, and he'd give me a little nibble and everything. I was like, oh, that's so gross. Why would you even have it? For some reason, when middle age hit me, I found out that I really liked horseradish. So get yourself some good horseradish sauce. Now this is Engelhofer, and this is a really good horseradish. So you know, everyone stay away from Kraft. Kraft horseradish is not that good. I'll put my name on that one. Get yourself some ketchup. Now here's another thing. Historic ketchup is not the same as the ketchup that we make and eat today. There's so much sugar in our modern ketchup. Now, in the early 1900s, sugar started getting added more and more because it was more and more available. It's more affordable. But even in the early 1900s, the amount of sweetness and sugar that was in things is nothing like what we have today. And as for mayonnaise, here in Ohio, not a lot of us really eat regular mayonnaise. We eat the stuff in the blue jar. So get yourself some real mayonnaise. I'm using this, which is also really sweet. So keep that in mind when you're adding your ingredients together. And another thing that seems to be pretty common is like a chili sauce. So, yep, I got our old friend here to put just a dash. I don't really like a tremendous amount of heat. Now, if it's in the back of your throat, that's one thing. But if it's on the front, I'm not a big fan. So first things first, we're going to put these aside because that's for our Russian sauce. Now for the seasonings in our actual beef Hamburg that we're cooking on the Preston Mess Kit, by the way. And if you haven't signed up to get yourself a Preston Mess Kit, it's in the description box below because we're going to cook these on the Preston Mess Kit. So we have salt, pepper, nutmeg. That's it. Like there's not a lot of seasoning to this. The sauce is what's really going to help bring out some more flavors. We're going to go ahead and put our beef in here. Now it says 2 eggs. I don't think you need 2 eggs for the amount of beef that I have here. I brought down 2 eggs just in case, but I think we're just going to need 1. We're going to throw in some onion. Now this is to taste. If you like really oniony, foods, this is probably it's 2 slices of onion that's chopped up. That's what I did. But I like onion. Onion's going to go really, really well with the venison as well, in case you got venison. You don't like the gamey flavor of venison. So then we're going to add our seasonings. I don't know, maybe about an 1/8 to 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. Salt to taste. Again, I'm probably going to go about a quarter. Put it in my palm here. Nope, too much. Don't want it too salty. There we go. So about about a quarter of salt. Now I like some pepper though. I really prefer ground pepper, freshly ground pepper. And this is black. Okay. Now we're going to mix this all in before we add our egg. Let it coat the meat and all those seasonings. Now the egg's going to be the binder, since it's not really fatty and we're not using ground. Okay. Get your hands in there just like Grandma would. Smush it in with the meat. Now it says form into balls. It's kind of hard to do with this recipe because it's not ground meat. At least I have not been able to successfully do it. Maybe because I'm not using enough beef, I don't know. But what I tend to do is use a little bit of the breading, throw that in there to help thicken it up, and then I roll around afterwards. As you can see here, it's starting to thicken up. Okay, so now we got our little balls. Put the rest of the breading in this bowl. Take out your chunk, put it in the bowl, and coat. After you got that, put it off to the side. You're going to do that. You want them kind of small because you're going to cook them for about 4 or 5 minutes and heat them up in that butter. And you want to make sure that they cook all the way through. So there we have it. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We have 9 little Hamburg balls right there, ready to go. We only used 1 egg, and you saw the seasoning. So now is the fun part. We fry it. Okay, so we're going to use our Preston mess kit. Again, if you have not checked it out, at the end of this video, there's going to be a link for you to see everything that this kit can do. Take a chunk of butter. The base of the Russian sauce is, of course, going to be the horseradish. And we have our mayo. Give it a dollop. A wee bit of ketchup. A splash Worcestershire. A smidge of hot sauce. Yeah, mix it all up. Have a little bit more mayo. We have our beef hamburg that's on one side made with real beef, and the other one is made with venison. Now I can tell you that the one that was made with venison is a little bit leaner. It actually was able to hold together pretty well. And some final remarks on making sure that you can make this and it is successful. Make your onions very, very small. If they're really big and chunky, they're not going to want to stick together with the meat, right? Secondly, one thing I didn't do with the venison that one thing that I did with the venison that I didn't do with the beef is instead of using an entire egg, I just used the yolk. I don't know why I didn't think about that to begin with, because it's not like it's the first time I've ever made a meatloaf or something like that. But anyhow, that helped out tremendously. It made sure that it wasn't too wet, and the yolk itself is extra sticky compared to the egg whites. Now, Rufus doesn't say that in his recipe. Maybe he implied it, maybe that was just the way that was done at some point. If you have some research on the subject and you know that that's the case, then put in the description, or not, put it in the comment box below and share with us. I know it's a question I'm going to ask Josh once I get done making this video for y'all. And of course I still got to get my hike in. So anyhow, we have our one side with venison, that's the smaller ones, and then the other side is with the beef. If we throw a little bit of this Russian sauce on there to give it a fair shot in comparison to tell you which one I think is better. Well, I'm going to try the venison first. It's really good. And it probably has to do with the onion and the Russian sauce, but it doesn't taste like, it doesn't have like a strong venison flavor at all. It's masked quite well. Now you can still taste the flavor of the meat, but I don't know, if you never had venison before, it has its own unique taste. So the beef, I mean, it pretty much tastes like a hamburger, right? Which that's not surprising. It's not. It's chewier. But it's quite delicious. It's really, really good. But if I had to choose between the beef or the venison, I would actually choose the venison. The venison has a little bit of a different flavor. It actually contributes to the overall result, which I kind of didn't think it would, especially since it was fried the way that it was. I thought it would enhance the venison flavor and it'd be kind of overpowering, but it's not. So there you have it. That is cooking beef hamburg with Russian sauce. And of course you can have your own little flavor spin on the Russian sauce. Cooking it on the Preston Mess Kit. Cook kit, whatever you want to call it. It's called the Preston Mess Kit. But you get the cup, you get the canteen, you get the plate, and you get the skillet. And for one person, maybe two people, that's really all you need. And these things are actually pretty full. I've had 4 at this point, and I think I'm pretty satisfied. Might have a couple more, and that's it. But you know what else would go really well with this? Especially out backpacking? Some Cheez-Its. Now, this is the box that Sarge Vining, he makes at Vico Outfitters. And I'm actually wearing the shirt of Nathaniel Logsdon over at Logsdon & Co. And I'm putting a shameless plug in for these guys because especially during this season where the temperature is just right, it's not like overwhelmingly hot, but it can get kind of cool with the breeze. Having a nice wool shirt like this from Nathaniel that fits historically accurate, it's comfortable, it's nice. It's going to adjust with you as far as temperature, and you know, if you're going to dress the part, you're going to be eating historic meals. Having traditional historic packaging is a great addition as well. So check out those two guys. Check out Josh's new channel. Again, it's in the description box below, along with the other two guys, but I'm sure you're probably familiar with Sarge Viney and Nathaniel Logsdon at 20th Century Adventures. But if you like this video, please click like. That way other people find it. We really appreciate it. If you have not yet jumped on the Camp Crafters Guild, I don't know while you're waiting. There's some great people on there, and we're waiting to see you jump on and join us around our campfire. We have monthly challenges, and there's a lot of resources on there, and it's just a great social media platform for people who really like camping, backpacking, hiking, fishing, hunting, anything that's outdoors, anything, bushcrafting or woodcraft as it was traditionally called, and we'd love to see you on there. Check it out, www.honorableoutfitters.com/join the guild. Can't wait to see you. Now, if you'd like to see the video breaking down all these awesome accessories in the Preston Mess Kit, then check it out here. Don't forget to sign up for it in the description box below. If you'd like to see my video of other cooking videos, then check it out here. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. Give a kiss to your loved ones, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.